Hello, welcome to CarCast. I'm Matt, the Motorator DeAndrea. We're bringing you another interview from the 2025 SEMA Show. This one is with our good friend Mike Kidd from TREMEC Transmissions. So let's get started. All right, now we're outside in the silver lot with Mike Kidd from TREMEC. Mike, you were on the podcast not too long ago, but we're really talking about Goldberg's Cobra and the TKX transmission, how that has become such the go-to thing, right? Like, it's small packaging, handles big power, 5-speed when you don't need the 6-speed necessarily. Like, we were talking about, especially of all the muscle cars, which we do see a lot at SEMA. The 6-speed's fantastic, but doesn't necessarily fit in a lot of things. So the TKX was the way to go. So out here in your outside display, you've got two booths at SEMA, right?
Yeah, so we're running two booths, one outside, one inside. Inside, we're doing a little more of our OEM products, showing our dual clutch transmissions, showing the capability of our electric vehicle that So we bought electric GT 2 years ago. And we're also, displaying a brand new Transaxle in there, a 6-speed Transaxle. So, but outside, we do more of our everyday aftermarket deal that we take to the different car shows.
Yeah.
Right. So we have every variation of our manual transmissions that we show at those shows. We carry our oil. We got our own blend of oil, shift balls, all that stuff. We bring that out here and let the customers shift them, use them, see what's moving, what's not moving.
I love that all the transmissions that you guys have, even the transaxles inside, you do the cutaways and you kind of show everybody like how it's working. So you can actually walk up to the transmission and mess around with it and see what's happening. But walk us through. So we know about the TKX and we know about the 6-speed, the TREMEC Magnum, but there's more than that out here. What is in the lineup in the aftermarket right now?
So everybody knows about T5. Everybody, that was our original aftermarket transmission, and it was in the OEs for a long time. And then we developed the TKO that was out for a while. It was the old TR 3550.
Yeah.
But it actually, it had grown out of what it was, and we developed the TKX, and that became a great product for us. But today out here you'll see that we also have our 6-speeds, and we have a lot of different variations of it, right? So when you look at it, we have a Magnum 6-speed,
Yep.
which has 3 different shifter locations, and it comes with a mechanical and an electronic speedometer so that you can put it in just about anything. But then you also have to think about, what do you do for the old F cars, right? So we have a Magnum F, which is another variant of that Magnum 6-speed. It just has a shifter in a stationary location that fits right up in the F car. And then we have the Magnum XL. So the Magnum XL originally came about as a replacement for the 05 and up Mustang. If somebody wanted to put a direct shift 6-speed manual transmission in their Mustang and not have to deal with the old remote mounted shifter, the Magnum XL became the product for that. Today, you'll notice that, and you can see it, other people can't see it right now, but we have a car on display, which is a 2020 Mustang, which now has a Magnum XL with a gear position sensor in it.
Okay.
So now it can cover 2019 and up Mustang and have rev matching and all those features that you get on those newer cars.
Yeah.
So, and then we have our display of our oil and stuff. We say that you run ATF and everything, and everybody says, why do you run automatic transmission fluid? But the reality is, it's a thin enough oil. It doesn't hurt the synchronizers. It's a good oil. But we did develop our own brand that we've seen a lot of better performance out of it, and it works good. So.
You were talking about the newer Mustang over here, putting that transmission in and getting the features like rev matching. Is that a feature that can be adapted to older cars, or is that to do a transmission swap on the newer cars? Like on your 65 Mustang, is that something that you can put into?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of both, right? I mean,
Okay.
if you're going to resto out a car and you're going to put a Coyote in it,
Yeah.
and the PCM has the capabilities of having rev matching, so you can actually put that in that car, put it behind a Coyote, put it behind a 7.3, put it behind a 5.2, whatever,
Yeah. Okay.
and turn that feature on and have rev matching in an old car. Or, like you say, we cover 19 and up Mustang now with it, but that's just the beginning, right? As I look at it and I say, we need to put that sensor on the 5-speed.
Yeah.
We need to put that sensor on the regular Magnum. Everybody would love to have boost by gear, right?
Yeah.
So that you can boost, you know what gear you're in and all of that. So yeah, so I mean, this is like kind of like just breaking the ice right now and putting that first one out there.
Okay, so now going inside into the building, you talked about the DCT and the Transaxle. By the way, the Transaxle, of all the news I get leading into SEMA, I got more news about the Transaxle, right? American Powertrain and Bowler, and everybody's hitting me up going, go see the Transaxle.
Yeah.
You know, and we touched a little bit on the DCT transmission, which was in the GT500, for example, right?
That's correct.
And the project that you were working on was Gen 2 Ford Lightning, the 99 to 04 Ford Lightning. Came with an automatic transmission, came with a supercharged mod motor. You guys took it to the next level. Tell us about that build and what you did there.
Yeah, so it's kind of Project X for us, right? I mean, we sat down with Ford Motor Company and said, listen, we're trying to figure out how to put this into something, and they were trying to develop a control pack for the 5.2 supercharged engine so they could release this crate engine, and so we partnered and we did it together, and we said, let's create this kit that we can offer to the industry. So we purchased the 99 Lightning, gutted it from a drivetrain standpoint, put in the 5.2 supercharged, put in the dual clutch transmission, worked together on the calibration, and we have a vehicle that, I mean, the performance of that vehicle, it's just amazing to me. I mean, it's 860 at the crank, like 730 at the wheel, and a Gen 2 Lightning, and you know just as well as I do, that's not a very big pickup.
Right.
So, I mean, the horsepower to weight ratio is pretty good on that truck.
I imagine it's fun. It probably doesn't hook up at all, but it's probably...
No, actually surprising, that truck hooks so well.
Does it?
And I'll credit it to the tire.
Okay.
And you know, and I'm not here to push anybody else's product, but I will say that we have had great luck with the Pilot Sport 4S's from Michelin. It's just an all-around good tire.
Yeah, I put them on my Mustang Mach-1 as well. It had the R model, and it's so tough to drive that, and if you hit a little bit of water. When I went to the Michelins, it was like, this is a fun car to drive. It really made the difference. Okay, so for that transmission, so the engine is the 5.2 supercharged. Ford Performance, which is now Ford Racing, and Ford Performance Parts is going to be Ford Racing Parts. They had the GT500 engine, but now it's just being either packaged or marketed as the Raptor R engine. It's essentially the same thing. There's a few little differences.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You know, they released the crate engine and said, this is our GT500 crate engine, right? And you get the normal PCM and all of that. But to take that one step further, they wanted to release that engine with a control pack that said that I can now put this into anything, right?
Right.
And make this work on minimal signals. And so that has helped us, because now, instead of us looking at all the modules that are in a GT500, we have learned how to make this DCT work on just the base signals and be able to have a functioning vehicle that actually performs, like I said, pretty well. So
will the DCT, if I'm asking this correctly, will the DCT have a standalone brain box, if you will? Or does it have to be paired up with something like the mod motor? What I'm saying is can the DCT be put behind a small block Ford or a small block Chevy?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question, and I know that you've walked around here today and you've seen that there's actually another vehicle out here that got unveiled today over in Kendiggett. It's actually a 69 Camaro with an LS-based engine. But we actually have that same transmission in that car, and we've been able to make that function with the Motec controller.
Okay.
So the transmission has its own TCU. Don't get me wrong, we have our own controller, but our controller needs to be able to communicate with that PCM, and we were able to do that with that GM.
So the transmission needs to talk to the engine,
Exactly.
right? Because it's a DCT.
And
it
vice
needs
versa.
to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And the way to do it now is like if you're doing like the Ford deal with the Coyote engine, there's a package.
Correct.
There's the control pack.
Yep.
But for a pushrod motor, if you will, for a small block Chevy, small block Ford, this first iteration was your transmission controller was talking to the Motec fuel injection system. But
Absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe that expands into future systems. Who knows?
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, I would like to tell you that that's the direction that we're going, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It certainly is my desire as running the aftermarket here, and, it was to how do I bring the dual clutch transmission into the aftermarket, and so we brought some people onto my team that said, hey, we're going to make this work, and our first step was let's do the control pack build, and then the second step was how do we do this outside of only having one engine platform?
Right.
How do we do it with other engine platforms? So we've found that using the Motec has helped us do that.
So I guess when you're working on a project like that, you're sitting down and you're like, first mechanically, how do we get a DCT to hook up to a small block Ford or Chevy? So now we're talking bell housing and whatever, right? Like
Yeah, bell housing and flywheel.
bell housing, flywheel, right? And then, but you guys have enough in your catalog. You probably, did you have to create something new or was there something already there? Like for bell housing, for example.
No, not from a bell housing standpoint. I mean, we've been an OEM supplier since 1964, right?
Yeah.
So we've made transmissions that have fit behind every engine platform out there. So having the bell housing is pretty easy for us. We already know what we need, and it's just a matter of casting up the one that we need for that product.
So when you take a product that maybe started on the OE side, like the DCT transmission, you're working with Chevy, you're working on Corvette, C8, you're working on GT500, working with the Ford engineers, for example, they communicate with you and say, this is how this car should perform. We need to fine tune it. We're going to take it to the track. We're going to take racing. We're going to dial it in. But once you take something like the DCT and bring it to the aftermarket, how do you start working on the calibration for that? Do you come up with a calibration that you kind of feel like accommodates most vehicles, or do you start to fine tune it, or is it self-learning? Like putting the DCT in that 99 Ford Lightning, how do you get it to work with that car? It's different than a GT500, right?
It's different, but the reality is that we're still behind that same power plant, right? So we learned a lot from that in the beginning. You kind of know what you want from a performance level. We know that with the dual clutch transmission that we have capabilities of making shifts within 80 milliseconds.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. It doesn't matter if it's in the OE world or if it's in the aftermarket world. We're still providing that 80 millisecond shift. Are there different shift targets? Do you want to go to a certain RPM or do this or do that? It's all things that we learn by listening to our customers.
Okay.
I mean, if the customer wasn't coming to us and telling us what he wanted, I mean, yeah, it'd be difficult, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but we would do it. But listening to your customers and understanding what they want and being able to provide that, there's nothing better in this world to do that.
On that truck inside, I didn't notice, is there paddle shifters on it? I noticed the column shifter, and it looks like it's modern out of a newer truck. But is there paddle shifters like in the GT500, or how are you?
So actually, yeah, we struggle to find a steering wheel that has paddles that'll fit in that truck, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not all steering columns are the same. So for us, we decided that we would use that stock out of a newer Ford pickup.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're using the plus and minus button on that as our paddles, right? So the plus for the upshift and minus.
Right.
So,
Okay. So you didn't have to, in this particular case, add separate paddles or buttons on the steering wheel. You did it on the stock.
Just
of the
did it right
shifter.
on that stock, and it worked out well.
Yeah. But you're right. Like anybody working on a project like that can think about it and go, am I using an OE steering wheel? Am I using an aftermarket steering wheel? Can I add switches? Can I add paddles? Can I do whatever? So I imagine there are some options there.
Yeah, and I'll say that, could we go out and find paddles that fit that truck? I'm sure that we could.
Yeah.
But I was still of the aftermarket world of trying to preserve that truck, right? I mean, it is a Gen 2 Lightning.
Yeah,
and,
it's
and
cool.
you really don't want to tear it up. I mean, so for us, changing the stock was pretty easy to do, and making that work without getting too crazy in a tear up. Could we have put a custom steering wheel and paddles? I'm sure we could have, but then you kind of take away from that.
Were you able to just do the stock, or did you have to change the steering column to the?
It's same column. We just changed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Changed up the stock. So,
all right, now moving on to Transaxle. So now we're taking essentially the DCT, and it's a Transaxle. So now it's in the back. There's half shafts. There's, it's basically a rear differential and a transmission all in one.
Yeah, I mean, it all started with, not only did we supply the dual clutch transmission for the GT500, but every C8 Corvette that you buy today is a TREMEC dual clutch transmission.
Yeah.
But it's a transaxle. So you have the axle, like you said, that's incorporated in it, and it's an 8-speed dual clutch. So it functions exactly the same as the longitudinal transmission. It just has a differential in it. We actually use that. It's actually used on the GTD.
Yeah, I was gonna guess.
Yeah, and it's used on the MC20 out of Maserati.
Okay. Yeah.
So, we've taken that one step further, and I think I know where you're going to go because you were inside and you've seen it already. But we actually have a manual transaxle on display, which is based off of that 9080 DCT. Right? We kind of use that same architecture and said, how do we make this smaller, but utilize common parts, differential and gearing and that. So we developed a 6-speed manual transaxle. We brought it to the show. We're showcasing that, and our plan is that in 2026 development will continue with a 2027 start of production. Now, it will probably start out as an aftermarket transmission first.
Okay.
As we all know, there's
the manual version.
Yeah, it'll be the manual version, 6-speed manual. There's a need for manual transaxles, not only in custom builds, but when you look at some of the older vehicles out there today, that there's a lot of transaxles that just aren't available anymore.
Yeah.
And some of the ones that are available, they don't have the capacity today.
Right. I mean, if you certainly you look at something modern, like you said, like C8 Corvette, where the engine's in the back, transaxle bolts onto it like a transmission. But if you're doing Pantera, same kind of thing, right? But if you're doing like GTD,
yeah, I was just gonna say take
right?
GTD, right?
Now the engine's in the front, transaxle's in the back, so different sort of housing involved, and there's some torque tube or drive shaft.
We're actually using the same housing, but they're actually using a drive shaft going from the back of the engine to the front of that transaxle.
So the transaxle, again, the intention is to get it into the aftermarket, is to have it either bolt to an engine for rear or to a drive shaft and have the engine in the front.
Exactly. You could use it in whether it's a mid-engine platform, or if you want to utilize it in I don't know, let's say there's off-road opportunities out there as well,
yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a lot of dune buggies out there. There's a lot of sand rails, a lot of these vehicles that need a transaxle, and they need one that has the durability that maybe wasn't there when those things were built.
Right.
So.
And then the transaxle, manual or DCT, is that the plan for the aftermarket, or is it just going to be the manual?
So as we talk about the Lightning, and I said I want to bring the DCT into the aftermarket, right?
Yeah.
I'm obviously want to start with the 9070. I want to bring the 9080, but we have to start somewhere, so we start with 9070. And we will probably go with the manual transaxle to the aftermarket first.
Yeah.
And then bring the DCT to the aftermarket as a transaxle.
Yeah. Listen, I think that's fantastic. I think having the option, like we clearly have a bunch of manual transmissions here, and then bringing a DCT option in, right? Because TREMEC isn't really an automatic transmission company, but having that DCT is interesting. For performance reasons or quicker shifts, or maybe just somebody doesn't want to shift anymore, bad knee, whatever. Just getting a little older and going, hey, I just want to mix it up. But so a bunch of manual transmissions, DCT options, and then Transaxle options. So start with Transaxle manual, and then maybe Transaxle DCT, where it's shifts on its own. Yeah. It's a lot there. It's funny because you would sit down. You'd probably have this conversation 10 years ago and go, where's the aftermarket going? Where is it going? And I'm curious, a lot of this that comes up, because we see the start of these things sometimes in the 08, like GTD, Corvette C8, when the OEs have the conversation with you guys going, this is the car we're building, like we're building a GT500. Should we do a manual? What else do you got? Do they come to you and go, we don't think a manual is going to cut it? Or do you go to them and go, hey, we got an idea?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've, we started out as a manual transmission company in 1964. Right? I mean, first transmission we ever built, I think you and I've had this conversation before, was the old Ford top loader.
Yeah.
Right? For the F100. And we've evolved as things have gone on, right? I mean, as manuals, I don't want to say manuals fade away, but as the car manufacturers start to look at newer vehicles and they look at CAFE standards and things that they want to do from a performance standpoint, take the 10-speed automatic. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an automatic guy, but they progress those into having 10 speeds in an automatic transmission. We as a company that is sticking to our heritage says we should develop a dual clutch transmission, right? And so we went and we bought a company that made the mechatronics part of it, and we said, we're a manual transmission manufacturer. We got the gearbox, guys. We just need the mechatronics. So we bought the company. And then we went to the OEMs and said, check out this technology.
Yeah.
I can shift in 80 milliseconds. No human can shift a manual transmission that fast. And we put a couple of their best drivers to the test, and they came back and they said, I can't beat it.
Yeah.
I've tried to beat that transmission, and I can't beat it.
Right, but then they come to you and go, but it also needs to be comfortable. It needs to have drivability. Exactly. It can't be like the single clutch. Like I'm thinking of like the BMW M3 when it came out with the paddle. The first Ferrari, maybe was it 355 with the paddle shifter? Maybe the
458 Italia has it. I don't know what one was before that.
I think the 355 F1 maybe had the first paddle. Not sure. 360. Yeah, I'm not up to speed on my Ferrari transmissions, but
I mean DCTs were not popular when they first came out, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a question of, do you have a wet clutch? Do you have a dry clutch? Dry clutches didn't last. Wet clutches didn't last. We said, okay, we're going to do you one better. We're only going to make it wet when we function it.
Yeah.
So we actually, when the transmission's running and the clutch is engaged, it's dry. But if we go to open that clutch or close the other one, we pump fluid in it, right?
Okay.
It saves on the life of the clutch, right? Because you're not burning it up. But so yeah, we've taken kind of, we know that didn't work. We know this didn't work. We're gonna do the middle, and it's just been a great performer.
Well, I think you guys are on to something after all this time. For sure. But thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us again, and I appreciate it. I know you guys got your handful at SEMA every year, really, really cool stuff, and I'm sure we're going to see loads of those DCTs. I think the Transaxle is going to be the thing. The Transaxle, you're going to get the builders, the best of the builders out here. The guys from Roadster Shop are going to get calls going, how do I put a DCT into that chassis that you're making for me? Yeah. I'm sure they're already calling you and talking about it, going, how do we get measurements? How do we get CAD files? How do we start making that work?
Yeah, I mean, we sent that information out on the manual Transaxle a week prior to SEMA.
Yeah.
And we were going to announce that. And it's very popular.
Very
So
popular.
It's very popular.
I mean, look at something like the GTD, and they're going, well, we're still front engine, and we push it back as far as we can, but two issues. There's one, you're still going to be very front heavy, and two, it's like, depending on the transmission and where the shifter's located, every time we push that engine back, you start to move where the shifter's going to be, and it might not be in the ideal location. But if we can move to a transaxle, move some of that weight into the back and get a better balance on that thing, you can have arguably a front engine vehicle with a near 50-50 weight distribution, right? So, and yes, companies like Roadster Shop and builders like Kindig and Ring Brothers and so many others going, we've got some performance in mind customers, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they want that kind of stuff. But anyway,
we enjoy it, and I'm thankful that you asked me to be a part of this and sit down and talk to you. I mean, I've been with TREMEC for 37 years.
Yeah,
and I've grown up on this stuff. I love it. I don't see me ever, not driving a car that's or driving a car that's not a manual. I can't do it. I mean,
Mike, I'm going to say this again. I love your passion. Every interview that we've been doing so far, you just hear the passion and the commitment, and everybody that we've been talking to, they still really love what they do here. And again, we were just sat down with Car Audio guys from Rockford Fosgate, and he was like, I've been doing it for 35 years, and I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. And I love that you feel the same way.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks so much, and we're gonna go find the next one.